Welcome back, lads. Welcome back to another episode. I just wanted to give you a heads up. Part of the conversation was cut off because of a technical error. Well, technically, my phone just stopped recording. So, with that being said, I had to include about 5 minutes. That's I needed to re-record. So, you will see it once you get there. But for me, it was important to include this because the part of the story is just a great illustration of what it takes to get to become an introvert versus an extrovert, right? So enjoy the podcast, enjoy the episode, and I'll see you later. Welcome back, lads. Welcome back to another episode of our podcast here. So welcome back. Today we are talking about introverts versus extroverts, or should I say introverts to extroverts. And the reason why we talk about this is, well, Monish, let's let you start, because you had an incident where you talked about this to some of your friends. So invite us.
Yeah. So I was actually talking about, I was helping someone I had known for a couple of years. I was trying to help her essentially, basically make more money and have a bit more fulfillment in her life. And while I was talking with this, I mentioned to her, I'm an introvert. And she was absolutely shocked. She was like, are you really an introvert and all this and that? And then I thought, it played on my mind a little bit. And then I asked someone else and I said, do you think I'm an introvert or an extrovert? And then this other person, she said, I think you're an extrovert. And the reality is I'm not an extrovert. I'm an introvert through and through. I was that kid in class that never put their hand up, that never said a word. I was that kid in class where, in fact, every time we had parents-teachers meetings, I'm not sure if you have that around, if you had that in Germany, but they bring the parents in, the parents say, and the teacher basically says to the parent how the kid was doing in school. And all they ever used to say about me was, he's great, but he never puts his hand up. Make sure he puts his hand up a bit more. And I was scared to do that. And it got me thinking, because I realized where it all went right, almost. How I came to the point at which I was able to talk to anyone, a stranger, approach someone on the street, not have a problem talking to multiple people at the same time and things like that. Although, still being an introvert. So that's really the inspiration of this episode. And then as I was speaking to you, Niclas, you seem to have actually done a lot more research into this than me, so which will make this episode very interesting. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here. And so thanks for saying this. And let's just clarify. Would you say introvert is better than extrovert, or is extrovert better than introverts? What's your thought on this?
Well, okay. I think let's firstly explain what both of these are. I'm sure many people do know, but in case you didn't know,
okay,
an introvert is someone who is basically quieter. They are generally drained by social interaction. They think a lot, perhaps. They think before they speak. Extrovert is more outgoing sort of person. They are energized by social interactions. They love to network. They think out loud, and they generally just talk more than introvert.
Introverts are also perceived as very shy, so just maybe put this label onto someone, because that's basically how it looks from the outside to the introvert. Like an extrovert would say an introvert is just shy. That's what the traits are.
Exactly.
Okay, then
so in terms of
go ahead.
So in terms of which is better, it's a question which actually really I'm going to give you a very wishy-washy answer, because at the end of the day we realize that these traits, shall we say, of introverts and extroverts are neither good nor bad. They just are, and it is exactly how you use them. Should we give an example, right? So thinking, for example.
I wouldn't go with the examples just now, just to have like the broad perspective of what the thoughts are. We can take this on a later into
Yeah, cool, no
with the
problem.
examples of hyper successful people, that we can take those traits and see why it's important to have both. What do you think?
Yeah, cool, not a problem.
Okay, cool. Um, Let me introduce or like tell my part of my story as well, because since we talked about this, I was very mind blown because I had a conversation just like yours where people are very, very surprised that you identify as introvert. What we have developed is so-called an ambivert that is able to use like the best traits of both those extremes, like one extreme introvert and extreme extrovert. So we have the ability to use selectively those traits. So to the outside, it looks like we are extroverted, but deep inside, we prefer the introverted version of ourselves. Or for me, that's the case. I prefer being an introvert. I'm not sure how it is for you, but how's it for you? Like the preference?
Yeah, 100%. I actually, I don't really like talking to people, to be honest with you. Depending on the person, sometimes people can actually energize me, like yourself, as I mentioned before. However, there's a lot of people out there that complain too much, and I don't like those people. And there was a time when I actually lived by myself for 6 months, and it was addicting because it was so quiet and so lovely. Didn't have to deal with anyone's crap. Because what I find at least, is um, people look at me and they're like, "Oh, I'm a problem solver." Basically, people will come to me with problems and I will solve them again and again and again, which is good for those people that are getting their problem solved. But for me, it just gives me a headache.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
no, I am an introvert, and I like to be in with my own thoughts by myself,
Okay, so
and things like that.
all right, so for me the preference is also introvert. I so last year, and so again I talked about this last week, about challenges, and I want to have that episode with you with facing challenges and what we have like on personal challenges,
Yeah.
on a personal level. But for me last year I put myself on purpose in isolation. That means I do not have physical interaction with anybody. Socialization does not happen in real life. I stayed at home. I wanted to figure out what I want to do. I tried to just be in with myself and just face very, very tough questions that needs a lot of thoughts and the less distraction as possible, if that makes sense. So last year, just by myself, I love that. It's so peaceful. You don't deal with anything that is, exactly the same thing what you just mentioned is you
Yeah.
don't need to think of how can I help that person or how can I make someone else's life a little bit easier. All those questions just disappear and then you just focus on yourself and it's just so quiet and peaceful. I enjoy it.
Isn't it crazy? It really is. It's almost as if you had 100 TVs on constantly, and then suddenly you just turn them all off.
Yeah, and
There's no noise, there's no visual like sort of stimuli or anything like that, and it's just peace and
yeah,
quiet.
and this is an indicator that I knew in fact I was an introvert. Because sometimes I was just like, well, maybe I am an extrovert, just shy. So back to shy, perceived as shy. But no, I'm deep inside an introvert. So that was that one thing. But then one of my I met a girl at the gym, and then we talked about this, and then she was just mentioning that I don't seem like an introvert because I know the entire gym. So the thing is, I just listen to people's crap and I give value, and then once I see, and then I put them into two different kinds of buckets. Like you said, there are people that give you energy if you talk to them, and then you have those that just drain you. And I came to the conclusion for myself, if I talk about shallow stuff, like, this boyfriend pissed me off, or girlfriend, this partner is this, and how's the weather, politics sucks, like all this shallow conversation stuff bothers me and I don't want to deal with. So if people start talking about this kind of stuff, I automatically distance myself, not physically, but in a mentally sense. So I just absorb whatever they say and just give like a proper answer, basically. Versus you meet some people, they actually talk about being introvert or extroverts, or like stuff that actually matters in life. Then you start to engage and actually use this conversation as a recharge of your, I don't know, your energy levels. And so the thing is about me is I learned, and we get there later, how I got there versus you, because the story you told me was very inspiring, and I never thought about this that way, but we'll get there. But yeah, and then I just know how to use the extrovert traits to make a lot of contacts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that I think we should make one thing clear. Really, is if you are super introverted, you have to do things that will push you into a point at which you are comfortable to talk to other people. Because if you are super shy, you don't want to talk to anyone ever. You will get walked. People will walk over you. People will take advantage of you, and at the end of the day, it's a dog eat dog world. You got to go and see something that you want and go and grab it, because no one's going to hand it to you on a plate. And frankly, no one actually cares whether you get it or not. So it's you got to care. You got to go on your own accord, whether it is the time to think and spend hours by yourself to think, what do I really want out of this life? Which is probably one of the heaviest questions you could ever ask yourself. Or, solve an intense problem, to do with yourself or whatever it is. And then on the other side, asking people for money, or asking people for investment, or asking people for advice, for help, asking people for help, I want to make one thing clear, is not a weakness. It is a strength. A lot of people think that it's a weakness because, and I think it is because, you let me know what your thoughts are, is I think that it's because when you ask for help in class, I think in the UK it's a bit weird because people expect you to basically be really skilled at something without trying, without seemingly breaking a sweat, which is very strange because that's not really how it works.
Yeah.
What really happens is that you only get to that point when you put hours and hours and hours in, and then you seemingly do it very easily, but it's only because you put those hours in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I totally agree with that. The thing is, I don't know. So the schooling system, I think this is a different kind of topic. But in general, you will be hated on for cheating, which is like basically just making it easier for you to do the task you need to get done, and that's the test or exam. In real life, cheating is basically necessary because you need to have like little bits and pieces everywhere to remind you, okay, I need to get this done, I need to get this done. You hire people that are smarter than you in that one specific field. Yeah. So yes and no, but we can talk about this another episode. I think it's a great episode actually, to put this that way. Yeah. But in general, yes, I agree with you 100% there. You need to...
Yeah, I'm really trying to sort of say that, look, you need to be able to go and ask people for things.
Yeah.
Because they ain't going to give it to you just by
looking nice.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to give you whatever. The amount of free things I've got in my life just by asking for it.
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And the amount of extras and this and that, just by asking for it. And again, I'm an introvert. But somehow the confidence comes from within me. And then I can ask for it.
You know what? Let's dive into this. How did you get there to realize, okay, I need to be more extroverted? What led you to do those hard things?
There's sort of two sides to that. One is putting yourself in uncomfortable situations again and again and again. For example, taking a cold shower. I've been doing that every day for, I think, 2 or 3 years now, maybe. And another uncomfortable situation that I put myself in many, many times is asking for money, asking for tens of thousands of pounds for investments and things like that. And then also asking for tens of thousands of pounds for investments, attempting the investment. I'm talking about my first, or even other ones as well. And then they've gone tits up, and then you have to go back to the investor and be like, okay, this is why it's gone tits up, and this is what I'm doing about it. And whether you're introvert or extrovert, you're going to have that tough conversation. And believe me, it was a tough conversation. Well, it wasn't actually a tough conversation. It was the thought of doing that conversation was painful, very painful. So you've got one thing, which is putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. And the second thing is doing something, accomplishing something in your life. And it doesn't have to be making money. It doesn't have to be, making 10 grand a month, whatever it is, or, it just has to be something. So like, for example, becoming pretty damn skilled at playing guitar, or pretty good at coding, like not 100% of the way, 80% of the way even, so that you're able to do it, or DJing or something, anything. You put the time in, it's hard initially, then you keep pushing past it, then you get to a point at which you have accomplished something and you have competence. And then you find what you have is the confidence cycle. So the more competent you are, once you attain competence, then you become confident in it.
Yeah.
And really talking to other people is about self-confidence. And if you can be confident, because this is what I did, is I became confident because I had those difficult conversations before. I made the mistakes, I made a bit of money, I did things which I look back on and I'm like, wow, that was hard, but I'm glad I did it. And then I got the competence, and then the confidence came.
Yeah, and
so that's basically what it is.
And basically you understood what's happening behind, or like what's happening after the tough conversation, or after the tough thing you need to get done.
Yeah, and believe me, sometimes it was just like, let's get through this day, or let's just get through this hour.
Yeah.
Especially with that first project, which took 2 years, and then completed the project when it was COVID. Completing your first project when you get into COVID, and you're like, well, I need to go and pay these investors back tens of thousands of pounds. And I need to make money, and wow, I made so many mistakes, and wow, it took 10 times longer and cost this much more than, you just,
so
it's just one of those things, really.
So how did you actually get there, though, that you wanted to be more extroverted? Like, what made you think, well, that sucks, I want to have that extroverted skill, or like that extroverted trait?
It wasn't how you were thinking about it, because I know we briefly spoke before we started recording. It wasn't a thought process that, okay, I am introverted and I need these extroverted traits to help me achieve X, Y, Z. It was more of a case of X, Y, Z is my goal, and this is how I have to get about it. I didn't even, introvert, extrovert didn't even come into my thought process. It was the confidence to go and ask people for money came more from the confidence and knowledge of knowing what I was talking about to a certain extent. And that came from education and talking to other people, and a lot of learning. I mean, what I learned I put myself into education for at least like three years before I started that project. I did little bits in other visas before that, but
Yeah, so
it wasn't.
Okay, so you basically just focused on the action item versus what traits am I missing to get this done, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Exactly.
All right. So for me, to share my part of the story is I was always the shy person. I was in school. I was the short kid with curly hair, with the blue eyes, that was surrounded by the popular girls. I didn't have to do anything to have the attention. So first of all this. Second, I was very uncomfortable of having all those people around me for not doing anything. So I didn't know what happened. It's just there. Once school ended though, obviously the popular people disappears, like this entire dynamic inside school is gone. And then all of a sudden, all the stuff I had was gone. So I started from rock bottom, I should say. And I needed to understand, okay, what in the world did happen? Like from being popular to not knowing anybody and not making any content or connections or contacts or friends. For me, it was very hard to see what am I missing. For me, it was really, what am I missing here? What do I need to change in order to get where I was? I think that's how everything started from my personal experience.
Yeah.
And what I understood was, okay, I became a mechanic. I worked on cars for about 6 years. And during that time, I realized I need that trait of talking to a lot of people. I want to learn sales. I want to learn how to speak to strangers. And so my mentor, or like my supervisor at that time, he said, well, if you want to talk to people, I can give you that extra task. It's not part of your job description, but if you want to do it, then you can practice your stuff. I was like, yeah, I want to do that. So I learned to reach out to people, tell them, hey, I know you brought in your car, but it's instead of $200 or euro that time, it's going to be $1,500. And so those are very tough conversations, and this is usually ended up with people are very mad or upset, and you need to calm them down. And me, as someone who has no traits of an extrovert whatsoever, I understood now, okay, this is something I need to practice. This is something I need to become more, more successful, I guess. The other part is I'm fairly good looking, but I'm shy, and then so people assume I'm a playboy, but I'm not, because this is not what my personality is. And if people get to know me, they realize, oh, he actually wasn't lying. He is really just not interested in so many girls like his counterparts. And so that kind of surprised me every time when people make assumptions of my appearance, because my appearance doesn't lead to what my personality is. I don't know if that makes sense. But in general, this is how I got into this entire introvert versus extrovert. What traits do I need in order to succeed in my job or like tasks? Yeah.
I think that is, firstly, I think that is a brilliant framework to anything. And, you know, there have been times when I have, basically it's the question of, what do I need to do to get to X? What do I need to learn? What skills or traits do I need to learn? Which is an amazing question. If you're asking that question, you've only got up to go, really, because it shows that you're willing to learn. It shows a level of self-awareness. It shows a level of being not exactly happy, but being okay with the fact that you are failing in some areas of your life, which is inevitable. And then doing something about it, which is amazing. I mean, so you had some tough conversations on the phone. Obviously it must have been very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
How did you manage to calm these people down? How did you manage to get them to pay more euros to fix their cars? What type of cars were these that had a lot of problems?
Japanese cars.
Of course they were Japanese cars, yeah. No,
Suzuki's. It was mainly Suzuki's, some Toyotas.
Oh, it actually was?
Yeah. So the thing was that...
must be user error.
Probably. No, so the thing about this is, I can tell you let me tell you the story about my very first conversation on the phone. Actually, the first two conversations on the phone. And this was the conversation right after I said, hey, I want to learn how to speak to strangers or like people. Can I talk to customers? And Stefan, that's my supervisor's or slash mentor's name, and he's like, yeah, of course. Let's pick this customer. This is the one. I know he just brought it in for service. It was supposed to be 350 euro, but ended up at 1,000 euro, give or take. It was 1,000, and he was like, okay, here, dial this number and then just tell them what you want to tell them, And I was like, okay, so getting nervous, heart was racing, I got sweaty palms.
Sweating.
And I was like, my body temperature felt like I froze, but like my hands are sweating and my voice starts to be very jittery, very tense, hilarious. And he was just putting his hand on my shoulder. He's like, you got this, relax, just do it. And so I dialed this number, and then he picked up. It was a man, and he was like, so I started talking oh yes, so you brought your car in. I know we said it's gonna be 350 euro, but it's gonna be 1,000 euro. Just plain straight into the matter of fact.
You went straight at it. No explanation.
No explanation. Nothing.
We found some problems.
Yeah, just like that. And funny enough, so the customer was reacting very calmly. He was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no problem, it's fine," and that's it. We hung up, and I was like, "Okay, that's easy." And I was just thinking, this is exactly how it's gonna be from this conversation here, right? So I was thinking the way how I did it was the right way. The thing what I didn't know is that my mentor, my supervisor, he was like, okay, good job. He was just letting me think that I figured it out how it works and I'm just talented and that's the way to go. And so basically we had another call scheduled, or I needed to make another call to a different customer. This was a lady, and that was just about 50 euro of a price difference. And so because I had that first conversation, it was basically triple the amount of what was discussed before. I was like, oh, 50 euro, that's not, this is a piece of cake, that's a piece of cake. So I'll dial the number, fully loaded with confidence, fully expecting to be the next greatest salesperson of this era. And so I dialed the number, and I was just thinking, okay, you got this, it's just 50 euro, right? So same thing, I called, she picked up, and basically I was just saying, hey, instead of 150, it's gonna be 200 euro. It's 200 euro, so it's $50 more, 50 euro more. And so I was just saying, yeah, it's this. So I did the same thing, not explaining what it is, what we found, nothing. It's just plain to the price, and boom, that's it. What then happened, it was quite shocking. This was pretty much the reality check I needed to discover that I basically suck at sales. So she was reacting. I would almost say this is overreacting, because she was she was yelling at me. She was saying this is a shit show. This is unacceptable. You cannot treat customers like this. And it was just pure anger through the phone, and I didn't know what's going on. I was so blind, so naive of thinking I have figured it out, right? So I was just thinking that's how it goes. Little did I know that my supervisor, he knew about those two reactions. He knew that she was a bitch. Excuse my language, but he knew that she was a bitch, and he also knew that the first guy was very, very leaned back, and he's like an old friend of his. So he just did this on purpose. He wanted to showcase what could be the case, but also like in both spectrums, right? Like the both ends of the spectrum. For him, it was important to let me know this are both scenarios in both extremes, and mostly it's usually in the middle. You cannot go just for the price tag, right? You always need to explain what you've done, what you have found, what you're planning on doing, and then maybe at the end, or because of the laws, you gotta let the customer know the price. But overall, you always want to provide the value part first, and you want to make the value proportion as huge as possible. What I like on this story is that, firstly, I'm very grateful that he was there and enlightened me to have this kind of experience, because sometimes you do something the very first time and it just works, right? And this is, I think, the worst thing that can happen, because then you don't know, did you actually do a good job, or was this just pure luck because the other party is just fine with whatever outcome it is, right? This is why I always try to find first, I always try to learn from like negative things that happen. Because you can learn, you can adjust, you can improve. If something works just fine, you don't know if this is your fault of doing everything just fine, or this is just, based on the other party accepting their faith, pretty much. And that's that. So this is just a quick story about this entire thing, where I get to know the sales part of being exposed to both extremes of sales. The thing how I overcome this entire thing of thinking the worst situation possible is thinking that you are going to be fine. You're not going to die. You're not going to be in a hospital for 5, 6, 7 months. After a difficult conversation, no matter how difficult it is, if it's asking for money, if it's telling a customer that the price has tripled, asking the girl out for dinner, asking for a loan for friends or family members or whatever, or moving back to your parents, all those conversations might be tearing you down internally. But if you realize and really think about that you're not gonna die, you're fine. You just do it. Maybe you are nervous, and I'm still nervous. I know you mentioned you're not nervous anymore, maybe a little bit, but not as much. For me, I'm still nervous. The thing I developed is just acting skills, probably, where people don't really see that I'm nervous. My voice is very soothing for what I've heard and been told. So my voice just sounds very confident in that manner. So that helps me to just overplay it.
I think
but that's that, yeah.
if you can do a lot of practicing, it just it really helps. I mean, they have there's that theory called like no therapy or something, and it's basically you go out every day and you try and get someone to turn around and say no to you. So like asking for your drink for free at Starbucks, and they're obviously going to say no, and it sort of conditions you and then it's not so much like I remember exactly how it felt. I remember it's like a sinking feeling in your soul, not even in your stomach, in your soul, and you feel like you're gonna throw up and all this crap, and you just sort of just get past it. To be honest with you, I think that a lot of it is just not overthinking and just going for it, especially if you're gonna go approach someone in public. The quicker you can approach someone from the thought process, I would like to approach XYZ, or I would like to say XYZ, to doing it. The longer you leave, the less likely you're going to do it, and the
Yep.
more pain there is going to be to do it. You just have to go.
Yep.
You just have to go and do it. And
Yeah.
like I said before, they're asking for free crap. Just the amount of stuff I've got, just asking for free crap, and
Yeah.
that sort of thing is so minor, like asking for free rice at a restaurant or something like that. It's so minor that you can't fail. And even if they say no to you, who cares? I mean, it's like £2.
Yeah.
You just do
Yeah.
that again and again, and
Yeah. So the thing I would definitely say is first you need to understand what are the benefits of being an extrovert or having traits of an extrovert. And if you are an introvert, I'm telling you right now, this is one of the best skills, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. But based on results you see in like the hyper successful people in the world, they are introverts. If you want it or not, they are in core introverts. You can look them up, or if it's the guy who owns Gucci and Prada and stuff. I don't know his name right now. Or is it Zuckerberg or Elon Musk? No matter what hyper successful people you choose, most of them, if not all of them, are in core introverts. They have adapted the extroverted traits of public speaking, of confidently speaking to people, um, having those tough conversations of, okay, I need to lend money or I need to borrow money, I need to raise capital for whatever reason, right? Or make new changes to the company. Like all those things is better to have extroverted skills because if you don't talk, nobody will know, and if nobody knows, doesn't go
yeah,
anywhere. So the reason I bring this up is if you are an introvert, don't feel bad. It's a good trait. If you're an extrovert, you have, in my opinion, a little bit more work to do than an extrovert because you as an extrovert need to first slow down on your talking and start listening to people what they say. And this is harder said than done. I get it. I see it with my dad. He's a pure extrovert, and that he starts listening takes a lot of energy for him. So I get it. An introvert, the reason why it's a benefit or like less work on your end is because the first thing you already do is listening, and then you need to speak. You need to bring a solution or like value to the people. So that's why the introvert traits are a little bit more beneficial if you want to become successful in any kind of area, if it's investing, starting a business, in your career. If you tend to listen what people want, you can then bring this to the people because you listen to them, right? So that's that. And lastly, you mentioned you mentioned a question you asked me for about
yeah.
surrounding yourself with introverts and extroverts. I
So the
think that's
question,
like the last question we have then for
yeah,
this
I think
episode.
we've covered pretty much everything, and okay. What do you think about surrounding yourself with introverts compared with surrounding yourself with extroverts? And how would that compare to, like, if you're an extroverted person, would it be better to surround yourself with introverts? Would it be better to surround yourself with extroverts? Or, I mean, what do you think?
Um, I need to clarify the question, or can you? I need to ask you a question that clarifies what
Yeah.
surrounding means in that context. Do you mean surrounding with having the circle of friends, as introverts versus extroverts, or is it just in general? In general, you go outside and you surround yourself with random people. In what
Friends,
sense do you mean surround? Okay, so
friends,
you've
and people you choose to associate yourself with. That be business partners, friends, associates, that kind of thing.
okay. Um, I would say, but it's actually a tough one to be honest. So the problem, look, it's not a problem. The thing is this, my friends are basically all introverts. The
Interesting.
problem that comes with it is that you do not push yourself out of your way to actually, for example, talk to girls, or if you're
Mm.
like in a group of friends, right? Because everyone is an introvert. So the diversity inside the friend circle is not there. However, in the business world, I would partner up with an extroverted, no, actually also introvert, because I know that the person is listening to me. With an extrovert,
Mm.
I have every time the feeling they're not listening what I have to say, and they just overtalk. I had
And
that
they're
a couple
waiting to
times.
speak. They're not listening.
Yeah,
They're just waiting to speak.
yeah, they're not listening to speak. They actually just wait, like you said. They just wait so they can speak up and say what they have on their mind. So, me personally, I think being an introvert helps. Surrounding yourself with introverts as an introvert has benefits because you can't have meaningful conversations, with ultimately leads to opportunities that you can grow. It leads to valuable feedback that you can take from, and it's not just that someone needs to talk all the time. Um,
Mm.
this is what I've come across. Every time I had like an extroverted friend, it ended up not being a very valuable friend to me because they don't give me any value. They basically just talk about shit that doesn't matter, which at the end doesn't apply to my what I want out of life.
Mm.
What about you?
I think I do agree with you, uh, but again, it goes back to what we said at the beginning, right? Is these traits are neither good nor bad; it's how you use them. And I
Yeah,
think that I have more introverted friends, and my good friends are introverts, of which there are very few. Um, but I do also have some friends that I've known for years, most of my life, in fact, that are
yeah,
extroverts, and I actually I actually do like hanging around with extroverts because they push me outside of my comfort zone, and it's not something that is new. It's something that has happened for years now. Is that I have liked being with extroverts because I am pushed and I do things that I don't normally do, like go
hmm
out into different places that I've never been before and things like that. And I'm a bit of an like I like to go and see new things. I like to have new experiences. I like all of this stuff in terms of business and work. I think if you they generally say right is that a good partnership would work when you have people that are opposites, or not necessarily opposites, but people that are bringing different skills, right? So if I'm
hmm
very analytical, I perhaps want someone that is a bit better at public speaking or marketing, right?
yeah,
Um, and those sorts of partnerships tend to work very well. In terms of business, I think that you're the best person you could have is an introvert with extroverted tendencies in the sense that they are able to go and ask for money
yeah,
or they are able to go and market themselves and put themselves
yeah,
out there. I think that
yeah,
that is like if you could have that, but at the same time having an extrovert who can actually go and actually think and who can listen properly and who can actually put time into
yeah. I think
something.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
that's I think that's what we were trying to say. Is like the best way to be you is if you're an introvert, get those traits of public speaking and be comfortable with those conversations that are kind of out of your comfort zone. And the same goes for an extrovert. If you're an extrovert, we're not saying that you're a shit person. Um, you're not. But you need to start listening to what people have to say because if they don't feel heard, they do not appreciate your constant talking crap. That's basically what it is. The perception of what you bring to the table, if you just talk because you need to talk, isn't well received. Unfortunately, it's not. And it's not unfortunately, it's just if you don't bring value, and you only bring value if you understand what value means to the other person. That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
So if you're an extrovert, get it in your head that you need to listen to people. And if you're an introvert, you need to sell yourself. And that means you have to have those conversations that bring difficult questions to daylight, that brings the question, what can you bring to the table? What are you able to do? And if you can list good points because you were able to listen and just present it in a way that it's attractive enough, then you're golden. So both ways are valuable. You just need to define what do you need to work on. So yeah. And real quick, back to the question, and then I think we're pretty much done with the episode. But the thing is, surrounding yourself with friends, I just like the introverted part of it because it's easier for me to have meaningful conversations. If I go into marketing events or general events outside, and I do not call them a friend. However, it's someone I occasionally talk to. I'm not sure how you name this in like English, but someone you talk to. Yeah, so you talk to someone on a regular basis, but it's not your friend essentially. I like those. I like those extroverted features more because, like you said, they force you to be more outgoing. They force you to be more things. So if I go with an extrovert to like a marketing event, business event, stuff like that, or like watch a game, whatever, they tend to force you getting out of your comfort zone, which is absolutely awesome. But my circle of friends, which I only have a few to call friends, are all introverts, maybe with some extroverted features or traits. But yeah, surround yourself with both, because you need to learn to be okay with the other side, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just like anything in life is, you need a mixture of stuff, right? It was a question that, I think you gave a good answer, and I think that we know where we stand with that. So introverts out there, get out there a little bit, get out of your shell. Extroverts out there, get in your own head a little bit, and actually, listen, because realistically, you need to listen. Everything is selling, and people do not buy, quote unquote, buy from you, whether that is even just talking to you and being a person who could, you can help. And I mean, your network is your net worth, right? But people won't do business with you or speak to you if they don't know, like, and trust you, and they can't trust that you're actually listening to them. And that's the thing, is listening is a huge thing. I've had conversations with people where I don't even say anything. I just listen to them and ask a couple of questions, and they're like, oh my God, what a great conversation. I haven't even said anything. I haven't provided any value. All I've done is listen. But it just shows they're just not used to being listened to. So if you can listen to them, what value you can provide. And on that note...
I have one more thing. So I feel like we're giving extroverts a little shit here, but here's a good thing about extroverts. You guys have the ability to break the ice, and it looks like nothing to you guys. I admire this since I was little. My dad is, like I said, my dad is an extrovert. He breaks the ice in no time, and he has a really cool, fun conversation going on after 2 minutes just talking to a stranger. Absolutely horrific. Brilliant. I love that. I really wish sometimes I have that too, but overall, you guys have the ability to break the ice in no time, and this is something that is really valuable in today's world. So this is a good trait of you. And for that on, thank you so much for listening, and you see you guys next week.